Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, in almost all countries, voters must be registered in order to be eligible to participate in an election. Voter registration is intended to ensure that everyone entitled to vote can do so, to prevent ineligible persons from voting and to guard against multiple voting by the same individual. Now, the accuracy of voter register is a key element in ensuring that all qualified constituents can enjoy the right to vote. In Nigeria, to allow voters exercise their rights ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, created a window to allow eligible voters register. Now, the period allowed by the electoral umpire is ending this Sunday, that's the 31st of July, yet more Nigerians are yet to register. So on Daybreak today, we're going to look at the power of a vote in a democracy. We're also being joined in the studio right now by the Director of Strategic Communications Coalition of Northern Group, that's Samaila Musa, and of course the convener of National Political Equity Movement, Chibuzo Okereke. They're right here in the studio. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
And also via Zoom from Kano, we have the Executive Director, Resource Center for Human Rights and Civic Education, Dr. Ibrahim Zikirullah. Good
morning.
Now, before we go into the discussion proper, let's take this report by our reporter, Aisha Salih.
The last-minute rush that comes with the news of suspension of the CVR exercise has also come with a surge that is almost overwhelming for INEC officials and security operatives. Prospective registrants complain of unfair treatment by officials and worry that this may end with the unfortunate news of them not being able to be captured within the last few days.
Look at the whole population, the population of more than 200 people. You can see only 2 laptops. It's one person is doing registration, the other person is doing capturing. And the person is not even sitting down on his chair. He will be stuck sitting, go and buy granite outside, go and sit down, go and make up. They are not serious.
I've been here for 1 week trying to struggle to register. I told you this thing. Most people have been here since 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. They haven't done theirs. I said it's based on familiarity now.
To address some of the challenges, the INEC FCT Resident Electoral Commissioner Yahya Bello at an earlier press conference had noted that since the initial extension of the deadline, the Commission had created more centers, mobilized more machines and personnel.
He approved, extra personnel to man these machines, and also approved that we open so many other centers so that it will ease the congestion.
But to these registrants, the situation remains the same.
We'll be there since so some people will just come in with their convoy, they'll let them in. And we don't know how it's happening. Okay, they say they want to start with the list. We wrote our names. Okay, let's do it orderliness. Before you know, they'll open the gate for people with convoy, they'll go in. And the rest, you see them start voting, they're out. They'll start doing their voters card for them, they're out. Registration center close to our area, we have been there and they are not more working there. And people that have been going there, they say the crowd is too much and the machines are few. Okay, look at us now that we are here. How can one person be attending to 500 people?
We, since morning, some people left their work, left everything. Just have to sacrifice a day. My own is not even a day, 1 week. Kubwa, no. Duse, no. Central area, they have to divert that waiting now. Even the fuel itself, they increase it, but yet we are still blowing left and right.
The CVR exercise, in spite of the many challenges, continues till its suspension on the 31st of July 2022. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, that report giving us an insight out as to how easy or how difficult it is to get registered for the PVC. And we definitely know that without being on the voters register and without getting your PVC, you will not be able to vote. Well, that forms the fulcrum of our discussion this morning. So I'll start from my immediate right. Chibuzo, let me ask you now, why are we having this rush at this moment on the voters registration? Because it has been something that's been going on for a while, but Is it a lack of sensitization? Is it now that people are being aware that they really need to come and register? Or is it just a question of having a lackadaisical attitude towards the whole situation, and it's now that when it's almost ending that people are going out for it?
Well, I would say there are many factors.
Okay.
First of all, the most important currency in Nigeria today is no longer the dollar or euro, but the PVC. In your introduction, you said something about how important voters are in a democracy. Democracy is all about legitimacy and popular participation. And then the people that bring about that legitimacy and popular participation are the voters. And like you say, sovereignty belongs to the people. And representative democracy is such that these people now surrender their political, socio-economic powers to a few who handle their affairs. Now, this Nigeria, we have an attitude of last-minute rush. We saw that with the BVN, we saw that with the NIN, and we are seeing that with the voter registration. Not just now. In 2011, we faced that challenge. Ahead of 2015, the same thing, and the 2018 registration. And of course, as we are going into 2023, we are facing the same, challenge. But like I said, a lot of factors are responsible. First, most of these activities are done during work hours. And the socioeconomic challenges of the people today. Voter registration is not the priority of the people per se, because the people are trying to survive by finding means of livelihood. And when these activities are done during work hours, there is no multi-stakeholder engagement that allows workers to go and register during work hours. In fact, you could know that you may be sanctioned for leaving your workplace to go and
but there are break periods too.
Break period is not for every office, so that also is a big challenge. So Inec may be making efforts, but the capacity to carry the desire of the number of people that wants to register is not functioning at optimal level. Just last week, we now began to see NGOs and some CSOs, that Inec probably is working with, going to estates to do this registration on Saturdays and Sundays. Traditionally, the Inec officers will not do that on a weekend. And this is the kind of engagement that can even open up the system. And when you have a centralized registration system, you also face that challenge of being able to carry people along. For instance, look at the population of a local government and how many registration equipment are deployed. And you could also see political interference where people with political powers come and say, I need this thing for my place. And then they fund logistics to do that. In an area where you don't have somebody of political influence, they will also be having that particular challenge. And like the report captured, where you have somebody who is sent on an important assignment, not putting the required man-hour to deliver on the job, getting distracted left, right, and center with frivolous things that are not needed. It also causes disaffection. And that is why you could see organizations like Yaga Africa and Co. have been partnering with Inec to do a concert to sensitize people, and they made PVC the ticket to that concert. You could see the rush in Old Parade Ground and what have you. So a lot of factors are responsible for this, but I sincerely believe we can improve on what we are doing now. Yeah.
All right, so my question is to Mr. Sumaila. It's 4 days to go.
Yes.
Are we going to get every eligible voter registered?
Well, it's very, very impossible to do that. World over, even in advanced climes, it's not everyone that is eligible to vote that actually get registered in the long run. But I'm hoping that there will be improvements, because there has never been this level of sensitization on PVC in the history of Nigeria like we're having now. And, you know, it's as if it's just now that some people are actually knowing their civic responsibility, that they need to actually have that, because this will go a long way in making their voices to actually be heard. So, but the fact that even though the sensitization is coming, for me, it's coming late, because the drive wasn't this much of an issue, because, I mean, the INEC should have considered that the nature of Nigerians were always this kind of people, you know, who were acting on spur of the moment. So this sensitization should have been earlier if you know you have a deadline. But I feel that I mean, going by the kind of turnout you're seeing now, because even after this, I mean, from the time they extended, we had about maybe 9 million more youths who are now registered. So, and the drive is becoming more and more. So I'll plead with INEC, if there's a room for that, because election is still 2023, such that, you know, you don't deprive some people who are actually not aware of this before now. So many people just feel, I mean, it's just my own card. It doesn't make any difference in the long run. But people are now becoming more aware that, no, that one vote that you feel you want to trash is actually going to go a long way when they all come together, because you have many people in that class that always believe it doesn't change anything.
Well, as a follow-up to your plea to INEC, some other persons have made the same plea to INEC to extend the deadline. However, INEC has said that they need time to clean the register. They need time to harmonize it. They need time to display the same thing, working with the Electoral Act. Don't forget that the Electoral Act says that all of that must be done 90 days before the general elections, and then they have to also furnish the parties with the voters list 30 days before the general election. So INEC is saying that they need to do all of this before that. So your plea and the provisions of the Electoral Act and all the things INEC has said that they need to do, do you think that there's a way around that?
Well, the point is, if democracy is actually not for some people, by some people, for some people, if it's actually the government of the people, for the people, by the people, and now you're having, I mean, this is the yearning of any government anywhere in the world, to say, my own people, my citizenry is actually now aware, more aware than ever, to participate in the electioneering. So the laws, I mean, it's made for people. And if people are now becoming more aware that, oh, so this is actually my right, this is actually a way to make my country work, this is a way to make my voice to be heard, why not? If there's room for that, I mean, but they can come up with excuses to say it's not doable, or maybe after they must have finished the cleaning, because I'm sure the kind of turnout you have now might not be the same number, you know, eventually after the first cleaning they want to do. So maybe there's going to be room for some extension. It might be for 2 weeks, might be for 3 weeks. That will allow so many other people to actually get involved and get their PVCs.
All right. Well, Dr. Zikrillah, let me bring you into the discussion at this time. We've already established in the studio that this is something that happens in every election cycle, every election year, from 2011, 2015, 19, and now we're seeing it now. It happens every election, during every election cycle. Is there anything we can do to make sure that, or to reduce the level of occurrence? Because right now we're seeing a higher level of awareness from people. That means a higher number of people coming in to do this thing within this short time. Is there anything we can do to be able to reduce this thing from happening when it comes to every election period?
First of all, let me state that the rush that we are experiencing is not as a result of just the deadline. As we may have observed from reports that were made earlier, I mean, some of the complaints, some have been coming to registration center from one location to another, and they still haven't been able to access registration. So even INEC officials are not always serious, except when the deadline is close. Because if they were doing what they ought to do right from the start, I'm sure by now we won't be having the kind of rush we are having. Having said that, I must also say that if Inec has fixed a deadline, they should also be able to estimate that within that deadline, we should be able to cover whoever wish to register. So you set a deadline. It's not my fault. I may choose to come the last minute. And it's your duty to register me. So if you don't have the capacity, why do you call people out? Not that people are not willing. I give you a graphic example. In my place in Edo State, because of the way we are being pushed down at the radar of political recognition, we send messages out to everybody across that they should go home and register, and those are told to be mobilized. So we are the one that we send vehicles to our local government headquarters, Auchi, to go and pick Inec officials with their material down to Agbede. At some point, they will say, no, one politician said the machine must not leave Auchi that day. So we started writing to REC and the rest. These are challenges most communities face. People want to do this thing, people want to perform their civic responsibility, but they just don't have the opportunity. Of stringents that are in place. And so, while you may fault the people that for not coming out, what about if my age, it is today I clocked 18? Do I have to come yesterday? Would I be rejected? So these are things we need to take into consideration. And so if Nigeria is even a country where there is effective justice system, I'm sure by differentializing one person, we even render the whole election null and void. Because this is the only opportunity we have to speak to the government. There's nothing like referendum in our constitution. So people will just sit somewhere and throw down some policies in our throat. So we have to consume it, whether we like it or not. So voting again, which is the only opportunity, I don't think there should even be deadline at all. If we are doing this, then they should, in these days of technology, system that can be put in place, as you are registering, it is being cleaned up and you are having your voter's card. I don't know whether you need another 6 months to sit down and begin to look whether this one is correct or that one is not correct. So by biometric and all these three, we expect that there will be automatic cleansing. Go to embassy to go on for visa.
Dr. Zik.
Or go to bank. Some of these things is almost the same.
Dr. Zik.
So for me, I don't think that people should be pressurized by whatever reason, so whatever.
All right, Dr. Zik, you have talked about individual efforts, and then Chibuzo has also talked about the efforts of the CSOs. Where are the political parties in all of this? Yes, it is true that by voting, the populace gets the kind of democracy that they want and the kind of people that they want. But the political parties are also beneficiaries of this process in the long run, right? So what are they doing to support this process?
You see, we are just forced with fait accompli. We don't have a choice. So whatever they push out to us, then we accept. So in the recess of it, do we have political parties in Nigeria? My answer is no. Because political parties where you have few that determines what happens in the political parties. It's not free for people to enter. They determine who will get what. So it cannot be recognized as a political party. They are more or less like companies. That they have that name, political party, does not really make them political parties, because political parties are even go between the governed and the government. They are to aggregate the opinions of the people. They are to channel the grievances of the people. So people elect their some that you find there are some that are owners that have arrogated them to themselves, the leaders of political parties and the rest. They determine what happened, who get what. Somebody can sit down in his own office and determine across length and breadth of the country who are the councillors, who are the local government chairman, who will be governorship candidates and senators and the rest. So we can't take this to be political parties. However, with even what they have shown at us, let us operate within that. So you don't seem to see anything working. All they are after is how they can scoop the people, how they can further their interest. So it's really they are not formed because of the interest of the people. So
let me come to you now on this. Earlier we were talking, and we were talking about how INEC is probably like overwhelmed with this and needs help. And you just made mention to some NGOs and CSOs actually coming in to try and make things easy for INEC as it is right now. Do you think it's too much of a burden for INEC, and are they receiving the required support that they need to actually make this thing work?
No, I don't think so. Over the years, we have seen that INEC has issues of capacity, and they have been making effort. That's why you saw the former chairman brought in professors as returning officers, brought in the core members as POs and APOs and what have you. And just as a follow-up, there is nothing INEC can do to have a complete cleanup of the register. We know this because INEC does not know who has died or not in the code, because we don't have that kind of system that gets death register and all that into the. So you can clean up by harmonizing new registrants with the old data, or maybe updated information from people. But you can never have a clean-up register that have removed all the people who have died maybe from 4 years ago till now. But again, I'm worried that in an era of technology, we are not having the kind of integrated system that is able to give INEC the empowerment to multitask. For instance, before you vote, you are accredited. So we're able to know the number of accredited voters. But right now, INEC cannot even predict the number of Nigerians that wants to register. Because if there is a system for people to indicate interest that they would like to register, then you have to give those people the assurance that even if there is a deadline, that though, because you have indicated interest, we will have a system that will allow you to complete that process. Because if you're in the line, for instance, to vote by 2:30, no matter what happens, you will still be allowed to vote. So we need INEC to have a daily brief. First of all, how many machines do they have? And what is the capacity of those machines to capture Nigerians who want to register? These machines, if we know the number, we know the manpower and the capacity of the machine, what is their productive capacity per day? How much man-hour is put per day? When these statistics are in place, you are able to plan. For instance, in the National Assembly, you have immigration office there. You have NIN office there, but you do not have INEC registration center. And across many other public institutions that are secured, where you can easily do these things. Across the banks, the bank workers, we know, they cannot even leave their cubicle in a day. So when are they going to register? You know, so what if we deploy these things in the banks? So INEC need to engage a broader stakeholder, spectrum of stakeholder that is just beyond the CSOs who have thematic area within their work and all that. They should come out from where they are and launch into the, you have the traditional rulers, you know, in the communities, you have churches. You don't need the churches to come and apply. Take these things to them. And if you have challenge with, in terms of capacity and equipment, you have to talk. This is not about performance of government. INEC is a specialized institution, not housed under any ministry, because of the sensitive work they do. And they have to speak out to Nigerians, to National Assembly to intervene on what they need to do. And I agree with my brothers that there is no way election is to punish or reward the elected officials. When you make a system that does not allow the people to exercise that franchise, we have a challenge. So the excuse about attitude of Nigerians, they are there. But we know more and have to deploy. And when we have done all this and satisfy our conscience, nobody can blame us, you know, for not doing what we are supposed to do as a people.
All right. My next question is to Mr. Sumaila. Mr. Sumaila, there's a trend that's this time that's a bit different from what we noticed in the past. And the Daily Trust newspaper today says, 2023, North lags behind as voter registration ends in 4 days. Now, in the past election, the Northwest always had the highest number of voters, registered voters. After that, we had the Southwest, and then we had the North Central. This time around, even when you see the excitement or the rush in other parts of the country, we don't see a lot of that in the North. What changed? Why is this happening this time around?
Oh, okay, we observed that from the CNG, and then we decided to hold some programs to sensitize the people, which Katsina State was our pilot program for that particular drive. And then we had a town hall meeting in Katsina, and then the testimonies coming out from there is actually appalling. It's heartbreaking as well, because people have felt, especially this particular government, they felt, look, we were not lured with money to vote for Mr. President. We thought we have done everything humanly possible to have a good governance, to enjoy what it is, to belong to a country, you know, as a citizens. We felt we have voted for people who will actually take care of our pains, you know, listen to us and actually know what we're passing through. And then all of a sudden, for the first time, that we never opted for money, we voted for them, and then our lives have never been this upside down like we're having right now, especially in terms of insecurity. So the heartbreak is actually something else. People felt, please. And then some persons came, because it was a town hall meeting that was largely, you know, attended by stakeholders. I saw some clergies were of the opinion that, look, we have tried the good people. Some of us felt, let's try the bad ones this time around. So as for some people who felt, well, I would rather just stay back rather than even try any other person. So why should I be wasting my time going to go and get any PVC? As far as they're concerned, it's all balderdash. It's not working. You understand? Because when people feel, I mean, we voted for someone who belongs to us, who we felt he has all the credentials in the world to actually do the right thing for the masses. And then right before them, their wives have been raped, their children have been slaughtered, you know, and they are helpless, and the people who should help them are also looking the other way. So the heartbreak is
it a case of disappointment, a case of disenchantment?
Exactly, that's the point. We also held a walk in Mina, the same stories, you know. So really, you need to now begin to harmonize.
How do you harmonize? It's 4 days to the deadline. How do you, how much can you get done?
Well, we've tried to do what we can actually from our own path, and we're hoping that some other NGOs are also, or we also do the little they can at that state level, you know. But of course, the timing is so short, you understand. And like Dr. Zig rightly pointed out, I think INEC need to admit failure on their part. You see, it's just like a typical Nigerian problem. There's no planning anywhere. It's just like a story of a child who, they said the town was praying for rain. And then they went to a prayer ground, and it was only a child that went there with umbrella. And they were asking, you know, why? He said, I thought we believe it's going to rain if we pray. You understand? So if Inec is actually saying, oh, we've done everything, our publicity is, the budget is so billion, our this, we're involving NGOs, and you don't believe people are going to come out to register? So what are you talking about? You're not planning for the people. There should be a projection to say, if we have this level of publicity, then we expect so number.
Inec is saying that it's been doing this exercise for the past 1 year.
It doesn't matter, because if you have a projection, you should have it in place. The complaint should have been that we have this number of registration centers and there's low turnout. People are not coming out. Then we give kudos to them and say, look at it, the registration centers are empty. Nobody wants to register. But you now have a shortage of the registration centers. So what are we talking about? Is planning. You are lacking in that regard. Because if you have put so much energy in publicity and you're not planning to match the publicity, then you have failed. That's the truth of the issue. So, but you know, I haven't said all the, I mentioned in the north, basically, you know, there's more to be done, because I saw, especially Kano, Lagos is even topping Kano, you know, that's an aberration. So if INEC will actually say, look, well, we think at this stage there's a need to allow more people to express or to make their voices heard.
Because some persons have said that the reason that some people are not even able to register in some parts of the north is because of insecurity. They have had to move from one point to the other, and so they've not been able to be stable enough to register.
It's still part of planning. I thought all this would be considered. What are we talking about? It's like we're going into 2023 and some people are saying, oh, well, our people cannot get this done. We can't get to social community. They can't get to social local government. This all should have been factored into it and be announcing it earlier on, that because of insecurity in social place, where, you know, begging the people of this community and that community that their registration center will be in social place, and we're going to provide logistics, for instance. There's nothing wrong with INEC having a bus in those kind of areas where you feel, because these are part of the responsibility of a government. You disenfranchise me if you say I'm the one that needs to provide for all this. He also mentioned how they need to send vehicles to go and pick INEC officials. What are we? Look, we should be serious for once. You know, because if we keep putting money, putting effort, and we are not making provisions commensurate with that kind of effort, it's a waste of money in the long run.
All right, so Dr. Zikrillah, let me bring you into this. We seem to be in agreement right here in the studio that there is a lack of foresight, a lack of planning, adequate planning when it comes to logistics and talking about the number of people that ought to be registered and having those things in place to do that, that there's a lack of that on the part of INEC. Do you agree with that?
Well, I agree absolutely that we like planning as far as things are done in this country. You see, we may excuse INEC headquarters, because when you get to, anytime you get to INEC headquarters, you will see behave of activities. Everybody is doing what to make things work. But I can tell you that cannot be said about the states or at the level of local government. Except the election is very close, it's as if nothing is going on at the level of local government. Even the headquarters at the state offices, you just find few people, they work like civil servants, actually. So it is only the headquarters, almost everything are done at the headquarters. Then you now see at the last moment, pushing to send reinforcement to see that there are damage control everywhere. And I don't think this is how an institution should work. If the headquarters are doing their bit, The states are doing their own, and the local government. I don't think we should have these gaps that we are experiencing now. Having said that, I will also say that it's like the work is left for INEC to do alone. That like the issue of mobilization. What is National Orientation Agency doing? So it's one agency that is more or less moribund. Nothing is working there. And of course, it is meant to be so, because go and check their budget. In the last 15, 20 years, it's not even up to a budget that you can use to run agency like that in a state, which is given to nationally. And so it's like the agency is even programmed to fail. It's not to deliver.
All right, Dr. Zeke.
So,
all right. All right, Dr. Zeke, due to lack of time, in just 1 minute, what do you want INEC to do within between now and the next 3 days?
Well, I will ask INEC to extend the deadline and allow people that are eligible to register. And if they have to shift the date of election, so be it. But it is important that every Nigerian that is qualified to register, that is eligible, is allowed to register, so that he or she will be able to perform their civic responsibility. Thank you.
On a final note as well, he just made mention that INEC should do whatever it takes to make sure that everybody that is eligible to register gets registered. So while I pointed out earlier that it's actually impossible to get people to, everybody that is eligible to register, to actually register. So where do you stand on that?
Well, mine is we have about 178,000 polling units. Why shouldn't we deploy? That is where we're going to vote. Let's go there and register people. Kaduna State government just pronounced 3-day holiday to get people to go and register, because shifting election day, there are constitutional limitations, so we can't even go there. But again, I think INEC should take this time out, suspend the process, do whatever inside work they want to do, and relaunch it in the next 1 month or so. And this time, if the resources are there, deploy to the polling unit, deploy to specialized areas, banks, institutions, of government, schools, and what have you, and get people, to register. And that is doable if the money is there. And I agree with Doc that at the local government level, I can tell you that some INEC offices there are taken over by grasses and what have you. Nothing, there's no, if you look at the structure, you will know that nothing can happen there. And we need to change all this. Everything can't just be centralized and we expect to get results. No.
All right, Sumaila, your final notes on this.
Okay, my final take will be that INEC should look for a way to extend this, because 3 days is not enough. He pointed out Kaduna, Lagos also yesterday is given a 4-day public holiday so that people can actually go and get their PVCs. And if this can be replicated across the country, there's nothing wrong with that. If we can actually have a public holiday on the day of election, why can't we have public holiday for people to get registered? There are a lot of people that no matter what they try to do, in terms of registration, it's absolutely impossible for them because of the nature of their job. So, but if you give public holidays, people will take it more serious, that there's no movement. All this, what this is for registration. I think that will go a long way in helping the system to achieve its goal.
All right. Well, we do hope at the end of the day the majority of people, or most of the people that are actually eligible to register and vote, get to register and vote. And we hope INEC will take the necessary steps to make sure that happens. Well, that's the much we can take on Daybreak this morning. Before we go, I'd like to thank our guest, Dr. Ibrahim Zikirullah, who joined us from Kano. Thank you very much for being on the show this morning. Sumaila Musa, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And of course, Chibuzo Okereke, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. All right, so that's a wrap on Daybreak this morning. Why don't we do this all again tomorrow? If you had a great time being with us as we enjoyed bringing it to you. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
Thank you for spending this part of your morning with us. Do well to join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Yaji, and do have a pleasant day.